Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at day 3 of Red Cloud's very pre-PDAC conference. I have the distinct pleasure today of introducing you to Ian Harris, who's the president and CEO of a very exciting Libero copper. Ian, I know that we only have about 20 minutes here for presentation, so I will pass it off to you, and then we'll take questions from the group at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastian. It is a lot to go over because considering we have quite a robust portfolio of copper porphyry projects. But I'm right now in Colombia mode. I'm calling in from Medellin, Colombia, because there's so much attention right now on our project Mocoa. So the majority of the project is going to be focusing on that. Of course, lots of forward-looking statements within the presentation. I'm sure I'm going to preach to the choir a little bit, but even as a mining engineer, it's hard for me to get my head around, the supply-demand gap that's anticipated by 2030. It's only 8 years away, where we're expecting a gap of over 8 million tons of copper. And to put it into perspective, the 10 largest mines, copper mines in the world, produce 6 million tons. So we have 8 years to basically replace, or duplicate the 10 largest mines in the world to fill that, even start to fill that gap. So, my responsibility is not just ensuring that we're drilling and advancing our projects, but focusing on making sure that they can become future mines and checking the boxes to make sure that we're investing into projects that can become future mines. So we have a nice portfolio of projects. 2 in British Columbia, 1 in Colombia, 1 in Esperanza. I like the very similar time zones and solid jurisdictions that we're working in, because these projects obviously take quite amount of time to continue to advance over multiple years. And when these windows come up, you want to make sure that these types of projects are sustainable. The next is the pride that I have in being part of the Libero team. I joined in January of 2021. Many of these directors and management joined in that same time. And the team just keeps getting better every time we look around. Just added Michael Sununu, brings a ton of experience in terms of financial planning and strategy, especially associated with the rapid growth potential that we have within the project. He's bringing a lot to the table on top of the traditional technical and financial knowledge within the directory, and the ability to advance very large scale projects all the way through construction. And recently also just added Matt Wonder joined us as Vice President of Exploration. And tons of knowledge in porphyries throughout the Americas, and a lot of time in Latin America. And again, not just discovery and exploration, but also advancing projects all the way through production, including Antamina in Peru with his time in Miranda. In terms of structure, we've held about a 50 cents for the longest period of time. All our financings have been at that price. All options are priced at that same price. So we're kind of all got skin in the game at the same pricing. But I do believe that we're right at the point where some key catalysts are going to be starting. Great commitment by management, participating in every single one of the private placements. A new strategic partner with Anglo-Asian at 19.8% in the last financing. They are a builder and operator and bring a ton of knowledge and a whole depth of personnel that are available to the project that would be difficult for us to carry in terms of metallurgy and mine planning and all these other concepts that are important, even at an early stage, to incorporate into the work that we do. Tight share structure and also really good liquidity. So I think we're really set up very strongly. I'm just going to hit the other projects, just a single slide. I wish I had more time to dump into it, but Big Red, last year we did almost 5,000 meters. Of those, 80% were mineralized, so significant disseminated mineralization, but we're still hunting and looking forward to adding another 5,000 meters this year, hunting and for that porphyry center and looking at getting into the higher grades. But right now, everything from surface, grade disseminated over a very large area. But the hunt continues to find. We're still on the outsides of this porphyry and hunting for this whale. Big Bulk, we put in 2,000 meters last year, and also testing a new theory. And so the next step in this project is trying to find that phase 2 mineralization over larger intersects. Esperanza, I know it's going to probably hurt a lot of feelings that I'm not going to go into more detail on Argentina, but again, we continue to be working on the reactivation of our exploration license. We've had lots of great meetings, including with the vice governor, to set up a meeting with the governor, who's kind of the boss of the Minister of Mines. All indications is they're very supportive of the plan that we've put together. They really like it. We're aligned with government and messaging, even met with the Secretary of Media. But right now, the big project in San Juan is Jose Maria. And basically, they're waiting to approve the EIA for construction of that project, and basically don't want anything else to happen until that occurs. But we'd be immediately after Jose Maria. So fingers crossed that Jose Maria advances quickly, and so then we can, get our license. Will be the next one in line. Because obviously there's huge expectations and excitement around the Esperanza project. But I really wanted to take the time to talk about what's really happening on the ground. I think for over a year, I talked about the strategy to unlock the potential of Mocoa. And today we are drilling on Mocoa. This project was last drilled 10 years ago by B2Gold. For many, it's, kind of might be a forgotten project or considered to be inactive. I think our valuation reflects that it's not a project that people are adding value to, and I think that is going to change. It's going to get back into the eyes, the quality of this project. It already has 636 million tons of inferred resource. It contains over 4.6 billion pounds of copper. It contains 500 million pounds of moly. To put that in perspective, annual moly world production is about 600 million pounds. It is a big project, and it already has drill holes in it inside of a resource with a very systematic drilling approach along a ridge line with one vertical hole, two side holes, has some spectacular holes at 0.65, 0.75 equivalent copper grades over very long extents. There's very few projects in the world that are putting out numbers like this today, and it already has them in it. So if we forgot about Esperanza, forgot about Big Red, forget about the moly, the massive amount of moly in Big Red. Just looking at copper, right? We're one of the least valued on an EV per pound of copper, ton of copper in the ground, which tells me a lot that it's being valued as an inactive project. You look at Northern Dynasty's Pebble project, you look at Deep South that had their concessions taken away, and obviously this project is no longer inactive. It is now drilling. We're now moving this project on solid footing forward, so a massive chance of just through the existing resource to see a significant change in North's valuation. But it's also a project that's very close to my heart. I was previously senior vice president and country manager for Corriente Resources, where we took the Mirador project all the way through sale and stayed on until start of construction, and went on to be the first large-scale mining operation and the first open pit ever in the history of Ecuador. Lots of lessons learned over some really tough times in Ecuador, but it's in the exact same Jurassic Porphyry belt, just sitting on top of the other side of the border. And to give it in perspective, right within this little dot, I think within about a 75 kilometer distance along that same Jurassic Porphyry, you have Fruta del Norte, Mirador, Mirador Norte, Pananza, San Carlos, and Warintza. And really the northern section of that, as it continues in Ecuador, it's still waiting to be explored, continues right into Colombia. It's a very prolific belt. And really, we're going to take advantage of being the first players in this area. Something that I feel like I'm home again. And taking all those lessons learned over an entire 2021, we applied those lessons, right? Understanding the importance of gaining strength locally, nationally, to drive political will, having a very solid system of values and having a key commitment to that value system, having a philosophy to operate that, again, is very easy to understand. It's very empowering, because that is how you create real relationships. It's every single employee is creating those relationships. I have some stories that I wish I could share of how that's actually happening on a day-to-day basis on the ground. And that's what we spent. We wanted to make sure when this project started, it was sustainable. It could continue to be drilling nonstop from once we start, just continue to add the amount of drills little by little as we have the capacity to add on those drills. And it all started with just opening up our ears, not making the community listen to us, but listening to the community, understanding what their fears, their concerns, and their desires were, and incorporating that into our plans. And such as they wanted to make sure that their children and professionals had the opportunity to work. So we created an entire training program. And today we're sitting at 85% of all employees are from Mocoa. We understood that some don't have the same level of capacity, and we have to put in training programs, but we made that commitment, and we're doing that on the ground today. So this is the first drill hole we're drilling. And I'm very excited about this hole. It's now actually today, it's at 450 meters deep. And it really is going through the traditional core where the majority of the core of the project, the high grade core, but also through a secondary core that was off one of the edges of the last holes, where we believe that this core is defined based on historical drilling, and really is more dependent on where the drill holes were than actually perhaps what the high grade is. So we have this blank zone, but we believe that this high grade breccia might actually be bifurcating. And so there's a potential here to stay that this high grade core connects with this lower core. But either way, it's already designed to have a lot of, going through some of the existing high grade core that already exists, because we need that modern geochemistry information, because we see a huge change of grade within the breccia. So we believe there's multiple phases of mineralization. Really want to understand the overall fingerprint of what that high grade phase looks like to help guide our future drilling programs. But again, this is a 1,000-meter hole that is expected to return some really special eye-opening grades when it comes out. Where again, we're not looking and searching and hoping and praying for a new discovery. It's really just building off the existing resource that already exists. And to put that into perspective, this is a previous hole that already exists in the Mocoa project. It's 779 of 0.44 copper only, just looking at the copper component. If that drill hole was drilled today, that exact same drill hole, and I think we can be doing a lot better than that based on the last diagram we just saw, right? That would have been the 14th best hole in copper in the entire world. Okay, so I just want to frame where we think that we should obviously be able to put out that we're expecting this is to be one of the best holes in the world when it does come out. We have really high expectations for what this could be and what that's going to happen in market. Market seems to be very driven with results and drilling results, even though we've done a massive amount of work on Mocoa. But the proof is in the pudding. So when that drill hole comes out, that first drill hole, we expect to get a lot of eyeballs on this project. The second hole off the same drill pad is basically following the traditional high grade core, but seeing if it continues to extend to the east and trying to get through multiple phases of mineralization to add to our overall database on how we're going to be exploring in the future. And then the last holes of this first 5,000 meter program, we have about 13,500. So even after the first phase, we're just going to continue drilling. We'll be testing a untested soils anomaly that's directly to the east of the project. And we think it's either a part of the cluster that is famous in these Jurassic porphyry belts, or it's potentially a fault where the overall deposit has been displaced. But it's too hard not to test, right? Because obviously you can just see from the size of scale that has the potential to add a significant impact to the overall resource of the project. And finally, just to check a lot of other boxes, the project is wonderfully located near some significant infrastructure, road system, 5 kilometers from high tension power lines. It's very close, 10 kilometers from the Mocoa city, which is about 50,000 people, but the actual project has no dwellings on it whatsoever. There's no houses, there's nothing. Actually, 90% of it is actually on government land. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And in the meantime, understanding what, it's forward thinking of what's going to happen when these first drill results come out. We've actually picked up an additional 1,000 kilometers of title requests, picking up all the open ground along that Jurassic porphyry belt. So we have a deposit. We're going to be getting modern information. We're be creating a footprint. We're doing the soils. We are now going through the interpretations of the geophysics that were done last year. And obviously the MAT brings a ton of value in terms of having a regional approach and taking advantage of what we have. So again, in summary, a significant deposit, significant resource, already contains spectacular holes. We're very undervalued in terms of the actual copper in the ground that we have. We've have the license to operate. We have the land grant. We've already done the geophysics, and now today we're drilling. We expect results. The turnaround time is only 1 to 2 weeks in Colombia. So we expect by the end of March or the very beginning of April to see the first results of these holes. Thanks.
That's a great summary there, Ian. Very sort of comprehensive in a short period of time, but I just want to put a couple things together here. So as far as your valuation is concerned, people seem to think that it's a sideline project, as you mentioned. It's not. They think that hole one means it's grassroots exploration. Well, aren't they going to be surprised when results come out from this first hole?
Yeah, that's the summary. You know, it's somewhat frustrating, but that's the way things work, right? That market likes seeing drill results. Market wants to see that. That's the proof. That's what gets the eyeballs. And I do believe that this is going to be a significant result. I mean, the majority of the hole is very close to information that we already have. And if we are correct in our thesis that perhaps it bifurcates the breccia, it's going to be a significant hole on the planet, right? So yeah, we're very excited right now of what's going on the ground.
No, that is exciting. And I mean, with copper prices going to the 480 mark relatively quietly with a lot of things going on in the world, but drilling an existing resource versus drilling an exploration project, how many other targets do you have? And you know, what's the drill program actually going to look like as far as capital, and what will you potentially need to raise in order to go and really prove out what this could be?
So with the current cash in the bank, we can fund the company and the Mocoa project through the entire year, and that's the way we like to work. You want to make sure when we're pulling the trigger that we don't have to. It's dependent on the financing. That's for 13,500 meters, but we're putting the things into place to make sure that all the infrastructure and then the future drilling is going to be a lot cheaper, especially a lot cheaper than drilling in the Golden Triangle. But overall, this is a project that even just to convert from inferred to measured and indicated is 100,000 meters, right? So we have an expectation this is a project that of 200, 300,000 meters. So once we start drilling, we don't want to stop. So the majority of the focus is going to be mostly expansion in the beginning before doing any sort of infilling. While we're creating intent, we already have one additional target, but even through the initial inversion of the magnetic survey that we have, I think we already have an additional 8 more targets, and that doesn't even include that 1,000 square kilometers of new hectares that we have submissions for. So this is, we have a short-term focus on advancing this project as quickly as possible. And while we do believe that there's going to be a continued growth that will be happening, and so it's going to be a lot going on and a continued news flow on this project almost continuously.
That's awesome. And then a little bit less exciting, but equally as important, could you touch on some of the community relations that you do down there? And you know, we've seen projects get shut down over the years for lack of that kind of thing, and I think you guys are doing a great job there. So maybe you could touch on that for me.
Yeah, this is something that's really close to my heart, and trust me, the time in Ecuador was really tough, right? You know, all mining was shut down for 18 months in the country. New mining law, new constitution, strikes, protests, et cetera, et cetera. But we put together some simple formulas and a lot of lessons learned. And I said, on this one, I want to take the time and set it up right. Right. So I'm very excited that we did so many things to create real relationships on the ground. Like, I mean, it sounds silly, but in Mocoa, we even had one employee that went out of her way to find somebody to produce the first steel-toed safety boots in the area. And we did it when he only had to produce 6. Right now that we ordered 200, he now has increased his capacity. If we would have waited until, hey, we got to order 2,000 boots, what we can do, it's too late. You know, it's really growing organically and creating really, really, really strong relationships on the ground. It's something I'm incredibly proud of what the team is doing on the ground.
No, that's awesome. And, you know, we're almost out of time here. So I will just let the audience know, obviously Ian touched on Mocoa as the sort of main flagship project that they're drilling at the moment. You should really take a little bit of extra time if you can, jump onto their website or jump onto our website and learn about the additional projects they have, because they're no slouch either. So with that, I'll leave you, Ian. Thank you very much for your time. Add the story to your watch list, and we look forward to getting some updates from you in the near future, Ian.
Thank you so much for the time. We're obviously very excited to share.
My pleasure.